Hello everyone, my name is Rick Jenkins and I'm the publisher at SCBIZ News. We're the media company that serves about 100,000 high-level business executives throughout the state of South Carolina. Welcome to SCBIZtv and welcome to another episode of our ongoing video series, Coffee With. Today I'm having coffee with Mike Gula. Mike is the executive director at the Columbia Metropolitan Airport, and if you're not familiar, the airport sits about 5 miles outside of town on a huge tract of land, about 2,600 acres. In 2019, more than 1.1 million passengers passed through the airport. And then 2020 happened. So we want to see how the airport is rebounding this year. And again, to help us with that conversation, Mike Gula. Mike, welcome.
Well, thank you.
It is good to see you. I'm glad you came by. I know you got to be busy.
It's busy. Things
Thankfully,
are
it's 2021, right?
Thank God, yes.
A terrible year. We're going to talk about 2020 and all of the hardships and challenges that presented. But before we get into that, I want to talk about you for a second.
Okay.
You are an Ohio boy, born and raised Canton. That's way up north, right?
Canton, Ohio, yep.
Yeah. And you went to Bowling Green University, also way up north.
I did, right on the line,
right.
Ohio and Michigan. So.
On the Michigan line. Now, when you went to Bowling Green, you majored, you got a degree in what, aviation something or another? What was it?
Aviation management.
Aviation management.
I originally went to Bowling Green thinking I was going to be the next Tom Cruise in Top Gun.
Of course.
And I was paying my own way through school and found out very quickly after my first semester that was not going to be in my career plan.
Right.
So the only thing I could do at that point was switch into the management program and keep all my credits for that first semester. So that's what I went into, and it's been a great career.
So it wasn't a first choice, but why did you choose it? You had a choice to make at some point, and you went that direction.
I did, and you know, it's kind of the laughing joke within my family. You know, when I came home after that first semester and I said, hey, I've realized I can't be a pilot, so now I'm going to go into aviation management. They're like, what are you going to do with aviation management? So it's always the joke at Christmas now when we're all together, because I actually made a career out of it.
Right. So many of us don't sometimes make a career out of what we went for, so congratulations to you. Now, you have moved around a lot, and at some point in your life, you decided that you were going to start following me around the country, even though you didn't know that.
Right.
You went to Lexington, Kentucky, Bluegrass Airport, which that's on the outskirts of Lexington. I was born and raised about, 8-9 miles from that airport. And then after that, you went to Greenville, South Carolina at GSP before you came here, and I live and work in Greenville. So you've been following me around, but did you like Lexington and Greenville?
I loved them both, yeah.
Yeah.
I started off my career at Toledo Express Airport in Northern Ohio. At that time, we were required to do 3 internships, and I went in and begged the airport director at the time. That was right after 9/11, so nobody was hiring, and actually sat out in the waiting room for 9 hours that day. And he came to tell the secretary that he was leaving for the day. And he said, are you still sitting here? I said, I just need 5 minutes of your time. He said, well, you got 30s, come on back. And he ended up giving me my first opportunity.
How about that?
So.
And that started it all.
That started it all.
Let's talk about CAE. That's the airport designation for Columbia Airport, correct?
It is, correct.
And is that how you refer to it?
I go both ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll refer to it as CAE, and other times Columbia Metropolitan Airport. Just depends on the audience.
I got it. Okay. So CAE. Several months ago, S&P Global put out some statistics, and this is no surprise to anyone. They were talking about the industries that were most impacted by COVID-19. And again, to no one's surprise, the airline industry was number one, along up there, with hospitality and that type of thing. So you all had a hard year. We talked before we came in here. There wasn't a book out there that said how to, right, when something like this happens. Everybody was just doing the best they can. Talk about those challenges.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, unfortunately, there's nobody that currently works in this industry that's ever been through a pandemic like this. So It was new to all of us. Through that whole time period, I mean, we all just, kept open minds, and we shared information as information came available as to what different airports were doing. We weathered the storm just like everybody else. I mean, I got through it without having to let any employees go. I did offer up some retirement packages to those who were able to retire. Right. I had 6 that were offered up, and all 6 took them. But it was weird. It was a very eerie time, right. Especially once the pandemic actually got announced. April timeframe, March, April, you'd walk out into the concourse and the only people coming off the planes were the pilot and the flight attendants.
Yeah.
Because they were still required to fly due to the CARES Act and the CARES money that they received. They still had to continue their routes whether there were people on the plane or not.
I did not know that.
So it was strange. It was very eerie.
They were flying planes with no passengers.
Correct.
How often did that happen? I guess a whole lot.
I almost
For a
feel like
while.
it was pretty much that month of April.
Right.
I mean, you may have 2 or 3 people that would come off it. We were seeing a lot of doctors and nurses that were flying at that time, trying to get into the hospitals. But it was weird. It was unlike anything I've ever seen.
Wow.
Especially when you take where we were at in 2019. We
Yep.
were on track. 2019 was the best year we had seen in over a decade out at the airport.
Yeah.
So right when 2020 kicked off, we were on track to have the best year the airport's ever seen in the history of Columbia Metropolitan Airport.
Right.
And then the pandemic hit us.
Right.
And it's been tough to weather through, but we got through it. And things are getting back to normal, somewhat.
Let's talk about the somewhat. So if we are comparing, let's see, COVID started at the end of March. If you're taking a look at what a normal second quarter looks like, as we're almost at the end of the second quarter, go back to 2019. Any idea how you're comparing now? What percentage of your business is back?
Okay, so to make this short and simple, currently as we sit here today, we're down about 41% of where we were in 2019.
Got it. Is that year to date? Is it June, or how are you comparing?
That's comparing the month to date. Year to date, we're probably closer to 52, 53%.
Right.
But we're tracking the same as your Greenville, your Charleston, your Myrtle Beach. We're all kind of right in there. Now your tourist areas, Charleston's going to come back quicker. Greenville's probably going to come back quicker. Myrtle Beach is, everybody's going to the beach right now, so they're coming back really quick. A good friend of mine, he runs the airport in Savannah. He said he's pretty much back to the normal numbers he was seeing in 2019.
Right. Now, I hear what you're saying, and there's perfect logic there that everybody's wanting to get out and go somewhere, right? It's been more than a year that we've been cooped up, and so I can understand why the airports that are in more of a tourist hotspot are going to be doing better. What do you think? Your crystal ball there for a second. At the end of 2021, you're down about 50% now. What's it going to look like at the end, do you think? What's your goal?
Well, my crystal ball is a little blurry.
I understand.
No, we're actually tracking better than we thought. We had set our budget based on 235,000 enplanements for the year. And right now, based on the forecast that we're seeing from our consultants, it looks like we're going to be more around 325, 330,000 enplanements. Which is still, it's still less than half of where we were in 2019, but it's coming back.
Right.
It's, what scares me the most and what keeps me up at night right now is we're seeing travelers come back, but it's all leisure travel. Mm-hmm. You're not seeing the business folks out there. And so our breakdown for our airport is 70% business, 20% military, and 10% leisure. Mm-hmm. And right now it's pretty much 100% leisure. A little bit of military mixed in there, but it's the leisure traveler.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that would lead to some sleepless nights as you're trying to think that through a little bit. I don't know how much that our audience knows about how much the Columbia Metropolitan Airport contributes to the economy, but we're talking a half a billion dollars. Normally, 1,800 jobs. Of course, this was pre-COVID, of course, but we're talking a huge impact to the economy when times are good.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're correct.
Like I said, Mike, a lot of us haven't flown in more than a year, and I haven't either. If I went to an airport right now, I'm not sure if I would know what to expect. What are the guidelines right now? When you walk into an airport, what do you see? You see mask, no mask, half mask? What do you see?
You do. So there's a federal mandate for the masks right now, and they're saying that that'll cancel as we sit here today on September 13th. Hopefully it comes sooner than that, but we'll have to wait that one out. It really doesn't look that much different. At least at Columbia. You walk in, you will see plexiglass in front of the airline counters. You'll see plexiglass in front of the checkpoint area. But that's really the only main difference, that and the masks.
Right. So masks are required when you come into the airport and when you're on the flight for the length of the flight.
Correct.
So even if you're sitting there with family in your chairs, you have to have your mask on.
Yeah.
Mike, I read a story, and we discussed this a little bit before we came in here. I read a story over the last few days, saw a TV report on it as well, about how many incidents of, I'm not sure if violence is the right word, but some form of violence that have occurred over these last period of months. And the report that I saw said that there had been 2,600 reported cases in the United States of some type of disruption on a flight in the last period of time, and 80% of that was about mask wearing, right? I don't want to wear a mask. Now, I don't want this to get into a political conversation, right? It's not about whether you agree with masks or not. That's not where we're going. But people are sick of them, and a lot of folks are letting that be heard when they're on the flights. Are you hearing about that?
I am hearing about that. I mean, industry-wide, we have not run into too many situations at Columbia, thankfully.
Right.
And I think it's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of frustration right now that people are going through.
Yeah.
And you know, I've seen some of the stories where you've got a 2-year-old child or a 3-year-old that won't keep the mask on. They get removed from the airplane. And I can tell you, I mean, as we sit here just chatting, I mean, I have a 3-year-old at home, and I know there's no way he would be able to keep his mask on for a 3-hour, 4-hour flight.
Right.
So it's, again, I think it's just anxiety and some frustration that's out there, and you know, we're all trying to figure out how to deal with this in the right manner.
Yeah, I hear you, and I wish that there was some way they could approach children differently. But what gets me, and what I hate to hear, is how the flight attendants are taking the brunt of all of this anger that seems built up in the public, and they're only doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
They can't help that. They're doing what they're supposed to do, yet we're hearing all of you know, the way people are treating them, and I hate to hear that.
And you're hearing that too. I mean, just in restaurants in general around town.
That's right.
You know, they're short-staffed right now because, you know, people are out on unemployment and they can't get the people back, and people are frustrated because it's taken longer than it would normally take to get your food.
Yeah.
And they're just being angry.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's talk about the return of air service. Okay. Let me say a couple here. You make sure I'm right. United Airlines restarted nonstop to Chicago in February, right? American Airlines restarted nonstop to Philly and DC in March, and to Miami just a couple weeks ago. So what percentage of you are back up and running like usual?
So we are, I'd say, well, let me make this simple. The only flight nonstop destination that we do not have back yet is LaGuardia. I did check on that this morning before I came out here to meet with you. It looks like we're going to get that back in August.
Okay.
So we'll have all of our destinations back. You know, we brought on a low-cost carrier through the pandemic, which was a huge win for us. When a lot of airports were losing air service and losing airlines, we were able to attract one.
Silver
and that's
Airways.
something, yeah, and that's you know, the low cost is something that every time I'm out in the community presenting, I mean, that's what they want here.
Right.
And that's what we've been trying hard to get it. So Silver's a smaller low-cost carrier, but believe me, the big boys are watching them.
Are they?
To see whether or not they're going to be successful here.
Yeah. And where can you go on Silver?
So Silver, you can go to Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando.
How much?
I looked up fares last week down to Orlando. It was $69 one way.
I'd call that a good deal.
It's a good deal. It's a good deal.
You know, not everything that happened in 2020 at the airport was a bad thing. You all had some good stuff that was going on in 2020 and at the airport. Tell us a little bit about that.
We really did. We went through a whole brand refresh. Our logo's different now. Our mission's a little bit different. Our vision's a little bit different. We still kept the same values that CAE's always had, that they'll always be known for. You know, fly with ease. Right. That's what we preach, and so we went through that process. And not that the old logo was bad, it was just, to us, it seemed outdated. It's a new staff, new team. I've got a really young team, and we were looking ahead. We had the momentum moving, and we're like, all right, now's the time. If we're going to do this, let's change our logo. Let's change our website. Let's change the overall look and feel of what Columbia Metropolitan Airport is and how we want to see it into the future. So we did that. We also, right when the pandemic hit, we were underbid for a parking guidance system within the garage. So in 2019, when our numbers were really good, people were getting frustrated coming into the second level of the parking deck because they wanted the covered parking, but you would have to drive around for 15, 20 minutes to find that one vacant spot that may be or may not be there.
Right.
So with the new system in, now when you pull into that garage, you're going to see red and green LED lights on every single stall. So you're going to know as soon as you look down, yeah, there's a green light, I got a spot.
Right.
We also, as part of the parking guidance system, we had run into some issues, and it was more so for me when I was out presenting within the community, that our parking rate structure, people like to say that that's too high, and that's why they go to Charlotte or they go to another airport within the state. That's not factual.
Yeah.
We're lowest. And I actually found a picture from 2004 when the parking garage was built. Our prices have not changed since 2004.
Right.
But you know, one thing that I do want the community to know, and hopefully they can respect this, that you know, at some point that has to escalate to, you know, for me to pay, or for the airport to pay $450,000 for a parking guidance system. We put all new wayfinding in throughout the garage. I mean, that costs money. That all costs money.
Sure.
And we have to be competitive with the other airports within our state and our region.
Right.
So we are looking into that right now. You know, and we'll see where that goes. But I feel like there's going to have to be a slight increase here sooner or later.
Yeah, understood. And you're due one. My goodness, 2004. Yeah, you're due one. People should understand that. You know, you talked about folks going to Charlotte or comparing you, and of course, when they do that for parking, they're going to compare airfares as well. And you can get more nonstops out of Charlotte, and sometimes you can get better rates. But you know, I think it's important, and I'm sure you'll agree. I think it's important that folks shop local, right? And whether you dine local or you fly local. And let's talk about that a little bit. I think the term, the airline term is leakage. Is that
That's
what
correct.
You say?
Yep.
So what leakage are you experiencing to Charlotte, to Charleston, to Greenville, and what would you say to those folks?
So to Greenville and Charleston, it's not much. I mean, you're probably single digits there. But when you do look at Charlotte, I mean, we did a leakage study back in 2018. We were losing over 40% of, you know, the Columbia region to Charlotte.
Right.
And the one thing that I would tell anybody in the community, I mean, we all preach buy local. Well, buy local, fly local.
Right.
It goes hand in hand. You know, in order for us to get more carriers, get more destinations, it has to have community involvement. We as a community have to utilize our hometown airport.
Well, you know, I think you're exactly right, Mike. I told you too when we were talking earlier that if I'm going to go to a steakhouse, I'm not going to go to Outback. You know, I'm going to go to a steakhouse that is owned by someone local. And that goes with as many things as that I'm buying. I'm always going to give preference locally if possible. And I think that goes for your local airport. And, you know, I would just ask the folks out there to support your local airport. You give a whole lot back to the economy, as we discussed, and employ a lot of folks, 1,800 folks in 2019. By the way, how many you got now?
So the 1,800, that's all across the board. As we sit here as the airport administration staff, I have 62 full-time employees.
Right, right. But 1,800, I understand, across the board. Do you know how that, how it
UPS,
compares?
I mean, we have the regional cargo hub there,
Yes.
so they're a major player in that. We've got FedEx has an operation out
That's
there.
right.
And then we have all of our, you know, our fixed base operators. We've got 2 of those that employ, you know, quite a few people. And then just some other tenants down, you know, down through the line.
So folks, support your local airport, Columbia Metropolitan Airport. This is Mike Gula, and Mike, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It was a good conversation. Folks, stick around on SCBIZtv and see if there's anything else you might like to watch, and we'll see you next time.